Salam, peace be upon you. I am Muhammad Laik Siddiqui, the father of Holophase. Part 5, the Triunity, Three Shadows of One Change. My friends, seekers, listeners, if you're with me now, driving, walking, resting in the quiet of your room, let this not be information. Let it be an experience, a retuning of perception. We have journeyed far. We began with a whisper that beneath everything, there might be a single primitive substance, a potential for connection we called phi. We learned we cannot measure phi itself, only its changes. We call that measurement d phi, the hum of difference, the signal of a shift. This is our bedrock, not objects but changes, not things but transformations. Now we take the most crucial step. We watch what happens when that pure abstract change meets the act of observation. And what we will discover is the very architecture of reality as it appears to us. We will find that d-phi does not present itself as a blur. It crystallizes. It separates into distinct, inseparable aspects. Like a single beam of white light hitting a prism and fanning out into a spectrum of color. From the one change, three readings emerge, not three separate things. Three shadows cast by one object under a single light. This is the triunity, and it gives us our first true vision of what time, space, and motion actually are. So let us begin not with theory, but with sensation. Close your eyes for a moment in your mind and listen. Listen to a melody, any melody, a simple tune you know. Now describe it. You can describe its rhythm, the pulse, the heartbeat, the when of it, the waiting between notes, the pattern of its insistence. Is it a frantic allegro or a solemn adagio? You can describe its shape, the contour it draws against the silence. Does it rise in a hopeful arc? Does it fall in a sigh? Does it coil and repeat? This is its where in the landscape of pitch. You can describe its movement, the feeling of being carried by it, the journey from the first note to the last, the flow, the current, the very going of the musical idea from the instrument to your ear and through your memory. But it is still one melody. The rhythm is not a separate entity you can extract. The shape is not a frozen statue. It is made of movement through pitch. The movement has its own internal rhythm, its own shaped path. They are not ingredients. They are not layers. They are three ways of listening to a single, indivisible truth. This is the gateway. For when the fundamental hum of potential change, our d-phi, meets a witness, which is itself a kind of connection, a measurement, it performs the same miracle. It refracts. It reveals itself in three inseparable aspects. We name them. From d-phi emerge omega, kappa, nu. Omega, the rhythm, the temporal cadence. This is not clock time, not numbers on a dial. This is the inherent cadence of the phenomenon itself. The beat of a wing, the cycle of a tide, the frequency of a light wave, the pace of a thought forming. Omega is the patterning of change in what we experience as sequence. It is the tick-tock intrinsic to the process. It asks the question, what is the timing of this change? What is its pulse? A fast omega is a quick, buzzing vibration of change. A slow omega is a deep, patient drawl. But omega is never alone. A rhythm implies something being rhythmic. It implies a pattern distributed somewhere. It implies kappa, the shape, the spatial variation. This is the where and the what form, the landscape of the change, the mountain range of a sound wave, the geometry of a magnetic field, the distribution of heat in a room, the actual arrangement, the profile, the structure of the phenomenon in the very moment of its changing. Kappa is the here-ness and there-ness of the change's intensity. A steep kappa is a sharp cliff, a sudden difference in pressure or density. A gentle kappa is a rolling hill, a smooth gradient. It asks, what is the form of this change? How is it arranged? But a shape, a variation, is not static. To be a variation of change, it must imply a direction, a tendency to flow from the high place to the low. It implies ni, nu, the movement, the transport. This is the going, the flow, the current, the actual carrying over, the wind moving from valley to ridge, the heat traveling from the fire to your hand, the charge rushing along a wire, the meaning traveling from my words to your understanding. Nu is the verb made manifest. It is the realization of the potential difference, d-phi. It is change enacted as passage. It asks, what is the motion of this change? Where is it going? Omega, kappa, nu. Time, space, motion. These are not containers. Let me say that again, for it is the core of the revolution. Time, space, and motion are not containers. That is the old story. The story that says time is a river we float down, that space is a static stage on which things are placed, that motion is an actor crossing that stage. That story is intuitive, but it is breaking. It has been breaking for a century of physics. What we are seeing now is the deeper truth. Time, space, and motion are not the stage and the river. They are three descriptions of the performance itself. They are three shadows of one change. Let's make this utterly concrete. Let's walk through an example that you can see in your mind's eye. Picture a stadium. Tens of thousands of people seated in rows. The wave begins. A section stands up, arms raised, then sits as the next section rises. The crest of standing people travels around the arena. What is the wave? Is it a thing? No. There is no substance called wave moving through the crowd. There is only people changing their state, from sitting to standing and back. Now, read the change. What is its omega, its rhythm? It is the precise timing for a single person. Stand up, hold, sit down. The cadence of their individual participation. What is its kappa, its shape? It is the spatial pattern. At any given instant, if you took a photograph from above, you would see a crescent of standing people. That crescent has a location, a width, a curvature. That is the shape of the change in that frozen moment. What is its nu, its movement? It is the speed and direction the crest travels around the stadium, the transport of the pattern. Now see the interlock. You cannot have the traveling crest, nu, without the spatial pattern of standing people, kappa. You cannot have that spatial pattern without the individual timed actions, omega. And the individual timing only makes sense as part of the coordinated spatial pattern that is moving. The rhythm, the shape, and the movement are three ways of describing the single coherent phenomenon, the coordinated change in the crowd. They are three shadows of one change. This is the triunity, and it becomes our first rigorous law, our guiding principle. Any real phenomenon must respect the interlock of omega, kappa, and nu. They cannot be torn apart. Let's test this. Let's see what happens if we try to imagine one shadow without the others. Imagine pure time, a phenomenon that is only omega, a rhythm with no shape, occurring nowhere, with no movement of anything, just a disembodied tick-tock in a void. Can you conceive of it? In trying, your mind immediately gives it a location. The tick comes from somewhere. Even if you say it's everywhere, that's a shape, a uniform, all-pervading shape. That's kappa. And for that tick to be a phenomenon, to be registered, something must transport it. A wave, a signal. That's nu. The very act of it being detectable binds it to place and transport. Pure isolated omega is a ghost. It does not manifest. Now imagine pure space, a static shape, a kappa with no rhythm, no movement, a frozen sculpture, but a shape that does not change in any way, that has no internal cadence, no flow. This is a snapshot, a photograph. And a photograph is not the phenomenon. It is a record of light that has moved, that has changed. To detect a truly static spatial variation, something must move from it to you, a photon, a sound wave. That movement implies a cadence, a timing. The instant it interacts, it ceases to be purely spatial. Isolated kappa is a fossil. It is not a living process. Finally, imagine pure motion. Nu without omega or kappa. Movement without anything that moves in a pattern, without any path or rhythm. Just going. But motion without a cadence is an infinite, instantaneous jump. It is nowhere and everywhere at once, which is to say, it has no coherent shape. Motion without a shape is a contradiction. To move is to trace a path, to have a from and a to, which is the beginning of a shape. Pure nu is a blur, a mathematical limit, not a tangible event. The triunity says, if it is real, it sings all three notes at once. This is not philosophy. This is an operational firewall built into the logic of measurement itself. And this allows us to make a bold, falsifiable prediction. Prediction of the triunity. Any stable, measurable phenomenon will present an interlocked structure of cadence, omega, spatial variation, kappa, and transport, nu. Its description must be triunity consistent. And therefore, we also have our falsification. Falsification of the triunity. If we ever discover a stable, repeatable phenomenon that demonstrably shows a persistent rhythm with no reconstructible spatial structure, or a stable transport with no underlying cadence, or a spatial pattern with no coherent temporal rhythm, under clear, licensed measurement conditions, then the triunity shatters. This is our contract with reality. We are not making vague, mystical claims. We are laying down a specific, testable rule about how change must appear. Now, let's descend from the stadium and walk this lens through the world. Let's listen to reality through the grammar of triunity. A heartbeat. Omega. The lub-dub, roughly 1.2 seconds per cycle. The pulse. Kappa. the physical, fleshy organ contracting in a specific wave-like pattern through its chambers, the spatial arrangement of muscle fibers. Nu, the flow of blood, from veins through chambers out through arteries, the transport of life. You cannot have the rhythm without the shape of the heart's contraction. You cannot have the blood flow without that specific rhythmic squeezing. One life-sustaining process. 3 shadows. A river flowing over rocks. Omega, the cadence of water over specific stones, a bubbling, gurgling pattern. The seasonal rhythm of high and low flow. Kappa, the shape of the riverbed, the bends, the rocks, the depth variations, the profile of the current. Nu, the movement of the water molecules downstream, the transport of silt. The movement is dictated by the shape of the bed, which creates the specific sounds. Change the bed's shape, the rhythm of the sound changes, the movement alters. 1 change, 3 shadows. A spoken word. Peace. Omega, the temporal sequence of phonemes. The P, the E, the S. Kappa, the shape of the sound waves in air, the specific frequencies and amplitudes. Nu, the movement of those sound waves from the speaker's mouth to the listener's ear, the transport of meaning. The meaning is carried by a specific shaped sound delivered in a specific temporal order. You cannot separate them. A word printed on a page is a kappa, shape of ink, awaiting a nu, light to your eye, and an omega, your internal reading pace, to become the living phenomenon again. But this goes deeper than biology and rivers. This goes to the root of physics itself and illuminates its greatest discoveries. Consider light, a beam of light. What is its omega? Its frequency, its color. 500 trillion hertz for green light. What is its kappa? Its wavefront, its spatial mode. Is it a wide beam or a tight laser pinpoint? Its polarization. What is its nu? Its movement at the speed of causality through space, the transport of energy. In classical physics, these were somewhat separable, but in the quantum realm, the interlock is absolute. The photon's energy, tied to omega, and its momentum, tied to kappa and nu, are 2 sides of the same coin. You cannot measure one with perfect precision without affecting the other. This is not just a limitation of our tools, it is a statement about the phenomenon itself. Its timeness and spaceness are fundamentally intertwined. The triunity is the whisper beneath Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. Now consider gravity, as described by Einstein, the orbit of the Earth around the Sun. Omega, the cadence, 1 year per revolution, the precise rhythm. Kappa, the shape, an elliptical path, but more deeply, the curvature of space-time around the Sun. This is a 4-dimensional shape that includes time. Nu, the movement, Earth's constant freefall velocity along that curved path. Einstein's genius was to fuse kappa and omega into a single geometric object, the curvature of space-time. That curvature, a shape, tells matter how to move, nu, and that movement defines the orbital rhythm, omega. Gravity is not a force in time and space. It is the geometric interlock of omega and kappa that dictates nu. It is a perfect cosmic expression of triunity. This perspective begins to dissolve ancient paradoxes. What is now? The present moment? The old view, a knife edge between past and future, a point in the time container. The triunity view. Now is not just an omega point. It is a configuration. It is a specific, coherent interlocking of omega, kappa, and nu for the observer. Your now is the unique set of rhythmic processes, spatial arrangements, and sensory flows that are in a state of consistent connection for your point of view. Another observer, moving at a different nu relative to you, will have their omega and kappa mixed differently. Their now is a different but equally valid triunity. This is the heart of Einstein's relativity, made visceral. Different shadows, cast by the same underlying change in the world, look different from different vantage points. What is an object? A stone? The old view. A lump of matter persisting through time. The triunity view. A remarkably stable, slow cadence phenomenon. Its omega, the incredibly slow vibration of its atomic lattice. Its kappa, its hard, definite shape. Its nu, its negligible movement, or its steady fall. The solidity is the stability of this triunital pattern. But peer deeper to the quantum level, and the stone is a seething dance where omega, frequencies, and kappa, positions, are in a constant probabilistic interlock, exchanging virtual particles, nu. The stone is a statistically steady shadow of an unimaginably complex underlying change. This framework doesn't replace physics, it reframes it. It asks us to see every fundamental equation not as describing separate quantities, but as describing the necessary relationships between these three shadows. F equals ma. It links a pattern of change in movement, acceleration, a change in nu over omega, to a spatial configuration of influence, force, a kappa gradient, and an object's inertial stability, mass, a resistance to changes in its triunital state. E equals mc squared. It proclaims the equivalence between the inherent cadence of a system, its energy, deeply tied to omega, and its capacity for persistence and resistance, mass, a stability factor in its kappa and nu. The laws of thermodynamics? They are the statistical rules for how vast collections of triunital phenomena, particles, interact, how their omegas, kappas, and nus mix and disperse, tending towards states where the shadows are more uniformly distributed, what we call maximum entropy. So what do you, the listener, keep from this journey? You keep a lens, a mantra, a new way to listen to the symphony of the world. The lens. When you witness any process, any event, anything, ask silently, what is its omega? Its inherent rhythm, its tempo. What is its kappa? Its shape, its structure in this moment. What is its nu? What is moving, flowing? Then see how they lock. See how the rhythm requires the shape. See how the movement defines the rhythm. The mantra, which you can carry with you forever. 3 shadows, 1 change. Say to yourself when you watch a fire. Omega, the crackle and pop, the flicker rate. Kappa, the conical shape of the flame, the heat gradient. Nu, the upward flow of hot air, the transport of heat to your skin. 1 process of combustion, 3 shadows. Say it when you feel a strong emotion. Omega, the rapid heart rate, the racing thoughts. Kappa, the tension in the body, the specific neural patterns. Nu, the rush of chemistry through the bloodstream, the feeling of being swept along. 1 psychophysiological event, 3 shadows. This is the profound power of the triunity. It is a unifying grammar. It allows us to speak of a star, a sonata, a sorrow, and the seismic shift in the same fundamental language, not reducing one to the other, but recognizing the common architecture of their appearing. We are not saying everything is the same. A symphony is not a supernova. But the symphonies appearing and the supernovas appearing both obey this rule of triple manifestation. The content is infinitely varied. The form of its manifestation is universally triune. This is the bridge we have built. We started with the silent potential for connection, phi. We saw that what we measure is always its change, d phi, information, a difference that makes a difference. Now we see the very structure of that crystallized reality. It always comes as a triad, a holy secular trinity of rhythm, shape, and movement. Time, space, and motion are not the stage. They are the dance. And we are not merely the audience. We are part of the dance. Our own perception is a triunity, a receiving of rhythms, a mapping of shapes, a following of flows. We are a localized reading of the universal change. In part 6, we will ask the inevitable, thrilling next question. If reality for us is this dance of three shadows, what happens when the dance itself changes? When the rhythm changes its rhythm? When the shape of the change begins to bend? When the transport accelerates? We will climb what I call the Tower of Derivatives, the infinite generative language in which the universe composes its complexity from simple change. We will see how from this triunity, all force, all substance, all the richness of the physical world can potentially emerge. But for now, rest in this revelation. Let it settle into your bones. Omega, kappa, nu. Rhythm, shape, movement. Time, space, motion. Three shadows, one change. Until next we meet, walk in peace and listen to the world's triple song.